Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Administration and Finance Committee meeting on August the 12th. I'll call on Rianne Kassar, Committee Clerk, to conduct the roll call. Rianne.
Thank you. Regional Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Councillor Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Chair Harris.
Here.
Councillor Hunick. Councillor Hunick is present. Councillor James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett.
Present.
Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councillor Salonen. Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Urbanovich. Councillor Wolf. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gathered today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chinantan peoples. We recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land, and we honor their historic and ongoing contributions to our community. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? There are no presentations. We do have delegations, and I just wanted to add some context regarding the automated speed enforcement process. Just want to remind Council that the automated speed enforcement process, including the screening review and hearing review of penalty orders, is a legal process set out in the provincial regulations of the Highway Traffic Act. Regional Council does not have any role or authority to review, change, or cancel penalty orders. With that, I believe we'll go back with regards to the Council's declaration of a conflict of interest. Councillor James?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair Harris.
I saw his microphone light on, so.
I totally missed it. To declare a conflict on one of the closed end agenda items due to an indirect pecuniary interest.
Okay. And with regards to the, closed item. Okay, all right, I will now call upon Joseph Wong from Kitchener. Joseph, if you're here, which I believe you are, you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So today I'm here to highlight some serious issues with the region's automated speed enforcement program. Next. My concerns mostly fall into three categories: poor and obstructed signage, a broken and inaccessible appeals process, and an enforcement approach that feels more about revenue than safety. If I have time, I will also share my own experience and some recommendations. Next. So as many of you are likely aware, the Ontario Highway Traffic Act requires clear and visible signage for enforceable limits to be done through speed cameras. The pictures that you see there are at 700 Westmount Road East in Kitchener. And I would like to play a little game with you guys. Please go to the next screen. Can anyone tell me where the speed camera warning sign is? If you can, you did a lot better than me as I turned left onto this road. Click next, please. They're behind the bus. It's behind the construction signs placed by the region of Waterloo. They are completely, in my opinion, not visible. Next. So let's talk about if you receive an infraction notice. What happens? Well, maybe a few weeks after you've received a ticket, you will be notified. You will be then directed to use an inaccessible portal like the one that you can see on the screen. That is where I was directed to. We have tables running into the footer of the web page. We have no buttons to click. You will then be repeatedly denied any in-person hearing or the ability to talk to someone like I am talking to you today. And so for these reasons, I believe there's a lot of legal problems with the current process that we have in place. Next. If I go on the region's website, I can see a council member saying that the purpose of this program is to keep communities safe. And I believe that is incredibly disingenuous. First of all, if no one can see any signs, how can you expect them to slow down? And if you tell people 3 weeks after they've driven past the street, are you keeping streets safe? Are you changing driving behavior? Or are you collecting as much money as you can from people before they realize that they've sped? Right here, it's small, but there's a dialogue between my friend and myself, who drove up and down a street after recently moving within the region. After 3 weeks of driving up and down a street with no clear signs, he received 6 tickets, one by one, in the mail, telling him that he has committed an infraction. Next. So my experience, you can see we're back at 700 West Mount Road East. Behind the construction sign, there is a sign saying there's a new speed limit of 40 kilometers an hour. It is not visible, as you can see. It has been placed behind construction signs. And so I'm driving on this street, which I believe is 50 kilometers an hour. It has been changed to 40. I'm given a speeding ticket for driving 53 kilometers an hour, and then I am redirected to the portal that you've seen, where I am not able to submit things or talk to someone orally like I am with you today. Next, please. And I am given an email from the city saying that, if you are afforded an in-person hearing, don't miss it. There's a fine. So I'm misled in a way to think that I will have an in-person hearing. But then a supervisor eventually emails me and says the results are final. We're not going to let you talk to anyone. We are not going to let you show your pictures to anyone like I've showed you today. And then I emailed many people that are sitting in this room today about my concerns and did not get any response. I did get one response from a local law firm called Riverview Legal, who said with the current system that we have in place today, that there is the ability for a constitutional challenge for the continued enforcement of the program as it stands. Next. So the 3 recommendations that I am asking for is to have brighter, larger, unobstructed speed signs, like the ones that we have at University Avenue West, where we have flashing smiley faces, something that people can notice, so they know that they're speeding, they know that there is a speed camera. Consider using police enforcement so that we can have immediate correction and reasonable judgment when an infraction has occurred. And finally, to redo the current appeal system to make it more fair and accessible for everyone in our region, whether you have internet access, you are technologically proficient or not, whether you want to speak to someone versus type something out in a portal. The system needs to be much more fair. Thank you very much.
Joseph, appreciate your time today. I don't see any questions, so do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I'll call upon Robert Shantz. I believe, yeah, Robert Shantz.
Right here.
Okay, you got 5
Good
minutes.
afternoon, Council. It's Robert Shantz. I was raised in Waterloo, born in Waterloo. July 28th, we've received a speeding ticket here. There's a picture of our new car we just purchased in January. It says 53 kilometers an hour, 40 kilometers an hour. Wilmot Township, Waterloo Street, northbound, north of Victoria Street. Now, you can shut me down right now. I had a lie to get in here. Our address, 1513, line 41, Perth East, New Hamburg, Ontario. Now, when I tried to book a meeting here, I didn't have an option. I had to say I lived in Wilmot, even though I don't live in Wilmot. Will you allow me to continue? Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm referring to 1984 here. This is a book I read in high school. I want to stop this right now. This technology, places in North America, they have facial recognition for these tickets. You'll actually get a ticket yourself, not the vehicle. I just want to make sure we don't go any further than this, is where I'm going with this. Now, I don't know if you have this as provincial. You're talking about the screening officer and the appeals. No. Is that a provincial appointee? Would be my question. He's not a regional employee.
Robert, we don't typically exchange going back and forth.
Okay,
You've got
that's
five.
fine.
You've got 5 minutes to just
Okay,
say what you want,
right.
And if we have questions, we'll ask you them.
Okay, thank you. Now, this ticket, $65, Victim component fee, $15. Plate lookup fee, $8.25. Total amount is $88.25. $88.25. Now, I went through this. I did this screening, then I did the appeal. I got an extension the first time from the due date here, pay by. Where's my number here? I'm looking for. Must respond to this penalty before July 10th. You have 30 days to appeal. I appealed, I got an extension. Then I did the review. Now the due date is October 7th, I believe. I just want to make sure we don't get any further with this. Here's where I'm going with this. Thank you.
Okay, Robert, appreciate you coming in. Don't see any questions, so thank you. I'll call upon Cheryl Gordick of Waterloo. Cheryl, nice seeing you. You've got 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Edmund and councillors. My name is Cheryl Gordyke, and I'm a former Township of Wilmot councillor. When I first ran in 2014, I lost by 11 votes. 4 years later, I was acclaimed. That made me the first woman elected to Wilmot Council in 44 years. In that historic 2018 election, the township achieved gender parity on council with Angie Hallman and Jen Fenning also elected. The election of 3 women in Wilmot was seen as a positive and progressive move. For me, it was an exciting time, a time of hope, and a time to celebrate. Other female municipal politicians from across the region agreed, and a group of us, including some of the women who are sitting around this horseshoe today, decided we should get together to congratulate each other. When some male politicians in the region found out about this, they complained that women partying together would be seen as advancing council business. By comparison, no one makes this claim when male politicians meet up for drinks or play golf. In the summer of 2020, 2 incidents became the focus of attention in Wilmot. First, when the mayor showed his approval for a Facebook video that contained racist information about Black men, and second, the pouring of red paint on Sir John A. Macdonald's statue in front of the township's admin building. After I commented about both of these incidents, I started receiving hate-filled messages at my council email address, including threats of physical violence. An anonymous letter was mailed to my home, which targeted both my husband Nigel and me. Nigel had previously delegated to Wilmot Council about the video and the Prime Minister's path, and the writer used this as an excuse to make disgusting, bigoted comments about his ethnicity. The tone of council meetings, especially when we were talking about the Prime Minister's statues, was often heated. We did our best to try and make those discussions a place where everyone would feel safe, where delegations' opinions mattered. We included the voices of Indigenous, Black, and the people of color who for a long time had not felt welcome. The inclusion of those voices had consequences. I know of several Wilmot residents who did not take part in the recent statue consultation because they had been targeted during the previous one. Recent media coverage has only included the opinions of residents who are white. Other diverse voices have been scared into silence. My attempt to speak on behalf of marginalized people in Wilmot and the region was seen by some residents as negative. Every time I opened my council box, there were harassing comments that went far beyond a simple difference of opinion. During a council meeting in 2021, one delegation angrily shouted at me for several minutes because I talked about the recent racist incidents in Wilmot, including some that had literally been on my own doorstep. When Councillor Angie Hallman told the delegate that his behavior was unacceptable, he replied, "If she doesn't get quoted in the newspaper, I'll leave her alone." I'd like to note that the 3 men on Wilmot Council remained silent and inactive during this incident, which did not surprise me. Not once while we served together did they offer any private or public support when their 3 female colleagues were subjected to repeated misogynist attacks. I wasn't the only target during this period. One of my female council colleagues was sexually harassed several times by local residents, and the husband of one of the other women councillors received an anonymous phone call from a man telling her he needed to keep control of his wife. Angie, Jen, and I were lucky that we had each other to lean on. We are grateful to City Councillor Royce Badali, former Regional Councillor Rob Deutschman, and Waterloo's MPP Catherine Fife for their kindness during this extremely difficult time. They were not afraid to support us publicly. The relentless hostility during the last 2 years on council took its toll on my mental health. After Nigel and I moved to New Hamburg in 2006, we were extremely active in the community, including volunteering at dozens of local events. But because of the numerous threats Nigel and I received, simply going out in public made us cautious and fearful. It was difficult to know who to trust. After I lost the 2022 election, Nigel said, maybe we can stop calling the police now. Despite all that we had contributed to the community, we felt that Wilmot was no longer our home. 6 months later, we left New Hamburg and moved to Waterloo, where we have regained our peace of mind. I'm so proud to have served as a Wilmot councillor, but I'll be honest with you. After everything I went through, I'm glad to be out of politics. I would not wish this awful experience on anyone. Women are discouraged from seeking office because they can see the constant hostility and harassment of those who are elected. And even when we do win, it can be seen as a struggle as equals by our male counterparts. I hope that you will all support Councillor James's motion to adopt the Elect Respect Pledge. This will be a big step towards making our local democracy safer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cheryl, for coming in. Colleagues, I don't have any other questions, so thank you. We're moving on to item number 7. If you wish, oh, sorry, Councillor Bogdanovich, sorry, I'm sorry.
Thank
I'll give you
you.
a bit of a leeway with the one hand.
Thanks. Yeah, just one question of staff going back to the first delegation. And I just want to make sure that there are mechanisms for people who do want to appeal a ticket and so on to do it outside of a portal mechanism. I.e., you know, if you are an older adult or who's not comfortable with computers, or if you are someone who doesn't have access to a computer, that you can still access the appeal mechanism.
Mr. Spinner?
Yeah, through your chair. Councillor, I'm going to confirm that one for you, but I believe the starting point is the portal, and if it progresses, there is an opportunity to speak to a human. I'll need to confirm that for you. I haven't personally been through the process.
Okay, so maybe you can bring that back, and if needed, I would hope that we have a mechanism that's not an online requirement. That's the only thing I would ask for.
Okay, colleagues, number 7, are there any items that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? Councillor Salonen.
I just had a quick question on 7.1.2, the investment position.
Okay, I think we can take that question before we approve it, so go ahead.
Thank you. My question, I just wanted clarity on understanding the sinking fund portfolio. In particular, who is the other participant identified in the issuance of 22-99 for roughly $4.6 million?
Yeah, I see, through the chair, I see that reference. I'd have to get back to you to get exactly what that is, but I will follow up on that.
Okay, thank you. Is it possible just to get an email follow-up to all of council with that? Thank you.
Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Fox and seconded by Councillor McCabe. Please use eScribe to approve the consent agenda items. Okay, that is carried. We'll move on to the regular agenda, 8.1, strategic priority, climate-aligned growth. I'll call on Rod Regier, Commissioner of Planning, Development, and Legislative Services, to speak to this report. Rod.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Harris. So, as Council will recall, over the last, I'd say, 20 years or so, we've been planning for the development of the East Side Lands. Is the largest contiguous expansion of the urban area in the Waterloo region. Over the last 3 or 4 years, the City of Cambridge has been actively facilitating the construction of a major sanitary trunk from the Freeport Creek pumping station up to the Kossuth Road, and the region is currently in the process of planning a connection of that sanitary trunk to the Kitchener wastewater treatment facility. All this to say that a great deal of work has been invested in the planning for growth on the east side of the Grand River in the Waterloo region, and the report here before you today talks about the next stage in that process. The Township of Woolwich recently completed an environmental assessment for the sanitary extension of the sanitary trunk up along Fountain Street to Menno Street to serve places like the airport and companies like Conestoga Meats, the urban and the industrial areas around Conestoga Meats, and then some of the residential areas of Breslau. The airport has, in the past, collaborated with the township to plan for the oversizing and finance the oversizing of the sanitary trunk through Cambridge. And we recently received a request by the township to participate in the funding of a new culvert over the Randall Drain at Fountain Street, and for the final design of the sanitary trunk and infrastructure along Fountain Street up across the airport property to Conestoga Meats and Menno Street. This report here summarizes the outcomes of that discussion. There is a nuance here in that the airport airside development at the airport is not eligible to pay local development charges because it's in a federally regulated area. However, we do participate by supporting local infrastructure in lieu of development charges. And so what staff are proposing is that the funds that we're proposing to advance to the township to facilitate this work would be attributed to what we might otherwise pay for in local development charges. So in summary, the township has requested that we contribute $956,000 out of a $1.5 million project in relation to the lowering of this culvert. The culvert itself is an important piece here because it will eliminate the need for a new pumping station at the Randall Drain in Fountain Street, which was originally budgeted at about $15 million. So it's a very significant savings in capital costs. And then also allocate $510,000 to the design and engineering of the sanitary trunk up to Menno Street. I think that's it by way of brief introduction, and I'm available for questions.
And we have a few. Councillor Shantz.
Not a question, just a comment. We really appreciate being able to work with the region on this and the airport. It's, as we all know, it's a significant area of the region that is going to be developed not only for residential, but also for employment lands, of which the airport is one. So increasing the size of the sanitary line and the culvert and doing all of the work at the same time is really a cost savings in the long run. We actually have a tender that we're looking at this evening at council, so really appreciate your support in going ahead with this so that we can get going forward. We issued the tender because it seemed for staff it was a good time to issue tenders. They were coming in a little lower than some years, and so for all those reasons, this is a good deal, so appreciate your support.
Councillor Foxon.
Thank you, and to you, Chair, to Mr. Regier. Was this in the budget?
Both of these projects have been in the long-term capital budget of the airport, and I believe the culvert project was anticipated in 2027, so we are bringing it forward, perhaps. Yeah, I think we are bringing it forward about a year and a half. So the money is allocated in the reserve of the capital reserve for the airport. It is somewhat unusual because this is one of the very rare times that we participate in the funding of local linear infrastructure. But because the airport currently spends approximately $400,000 a year in pumping or trucking sanitary waste to the Hespeler wastewater treatment facility, there is a net benefit to the airport in the long run.
Okay, so we know how capital budgets work. So if you're moving it ahead,
Yep.
that means something falls out. So what's falling out so you can take that $500,000?
Well, we have a reserve that can accommodate this cost. We don't have planned expenditures for that reserve, but we do have planned expenditures later in the 10-year capital budget that will probably need to be reevaluated. We are currently going through that process in the budget, and we'll be able to fully brief council on that in the budget process.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Rubin.
Thank you, Chair Harris. I just really wanted to commend staff, both at the region and township of Woolwich, to have come to what I think is a win-win. My only question is point number 3 under the recommendation, consider these contributions in lieu of the local development charges for airside development at the airport. And I know that this is done in full consultation with the township. Has the township agreed to that? Are they acknowledging that this is in lieu of those connection fees?
We've had, through you, Chair Harris, we've had a number of conversations about this. We haven't specifically talked with, I will say that the initial approach by the township was to finance half of the total capital budget for the project, which was, I guess, for this particular component would have been in around $50 million. The DCs, the local DCs for airside development at the airport, we think are probably in the maximum going to be in the range of about $8 million. And so there will be a need for us to have pretty extensive conversations with the township about what the various funding mechanisms are here, and how we will work together to put the funds together to build out the whole budget. We do expect that it will require some external support, and we'll need to be able to collaborate with the township to get some of that support. So I think they're satisfied. They understand where we're coming from right now, but there will be a need for quite a bit of negotiation and pretty detailed, sharp pencil planning work to finish this process.
I know Matthew would like to also add into the answer to this question. So Matthew, and then Councillor.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just to confirm, so I've had explicit conversations with CAO David Brenneman about this mechanism, which is defensible from a regional point of view and responds to the township's needs for this year's and for this phase of work.
Thank you. I'm very supportive of this and certainly will support the recommendation.
Councillor.
Thank you. If this wasn't exempt from the federal DC charge because of it, like, how would the cost sharing work then?
Well, in normal circumstances, the new developments at the airport would be treated just like any other private sector development, and there would be local development charges levied as building permits were filed. So in our particular case, where that particular mechanism is not available, we have to figure out other funding mechanisms.
Well, again, to repeat on what Chair Redmond said, it feels like a win-win, and I'm glad we were able to do this and accommodate the growth. Good work.
Councillor Salonen.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm curious on the long term, once this asset exists, who has ownership and who's responsible for its future maintenance and replacements?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. This is going to be a local piece of infrastructure owned by the township, and a good chunk of it will be located inside of a regional right-of-way, the Fountain Street, but it's definitely going to be owned by the township.
I don't see any other questions, so I'd like to ask for a mover and a seconder of the recommendation. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Shantz. I'll ask colleagues to go over to eScribe and vote. Okay, that carries. Prior to moving on to our next agenda item, I know that Mr. Steffler wanted to respond to Councillor Salomon's question, so we'll just address that, as I'm sure he'll follow up with an email, but a verbal update on that question. Go ahead, Mr. Steffler.
Through the chair, I was able to locate the other participant is a township. It was the township of Wellesley, and it was for a recreation center.
Okay, so we'll go back over to, our Commissioner of Corporate Services, Chief Financial Officer, Wayne Steffler, on item 8.2, Strategic Priority, Equitable Services and Opportunities. It is just a report being received for information. So I don't know if there was an update on that. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So this is the development charge rate and reserve sustainability report. This report provides a review of our current development charge rates, reserve fund balances, and the financial pressures affecting our ability to fund growth-related infrastructure. The region's current DC bylaw came into force in 2019, and it's set to expire in 2029. Rates were calculated from the 2018 background study based on the 2019-2020 to 2028 capital plan, and have only been adjusted annually per the regulation by indexing. Since that time, costs for major projects, especially transit, airport, and police, have risen significantly, and new growth-related needs have emerged. The consolidated DC reserve balance right now is at $172 million, but our 10-year capital plan identifies $1.6 billion in growth-related commitments. To bridge that gap, we are forecasting $595 million in growth-related debt. Debt servicing already consumes 26% of our annual DC collections. Legislative changes under Bill 17 will further constrain our cash flows by delaying collection from some residential developments from building permit to occupancy. Our initial analysis says that impact can be close to $21 million in timing, and the legislation is eliminating our ability to collect on interest deferrals. So the combination of rising costs, higher debt reliance, and delayed collections will limit our ability to fund infrastructure needed to support growth. So given these conditions, it's increasingly important for us to update the DC bylaw to reflect our current project costs, incorporate some of these newly identified growth needs, ensure the financial capacity to deliver the infrastructure is in step with the development. So happy to take any questions.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Steffler. Question for you. So I had a chance last week to meet with actually one of the first multiplex developers here in Kitchener, who's building multiplexes throughout our neighborhoods, which is really exciting. And he explained his experience and that of other multiplex developers, that how I understand it is that basically the first 2 units are exempt, or the first 2 new units are exempt, and that fourth is really what tips it over into a new realm, and that's where the additional development charges kick in and oftentimes make these projects non-financially viable. So you're going from 0 development charges to, in total, including regional and local and school board and all of that, like somewhere in the $40,000 range. And so I guess two questions for you. The first is just, are you able to clarify any indication that we've received from the province on work that they might be doing with respect to multiplexes or additional units, and how they might fall into our work? And I think, to your point also about the sustainability of our reserve, right? If no one's really going ahead with 4-unit projects because of this cost, we're not losing money, like we're not gaining that money right now. And what would it look like to, has the province indicated what they might be doing in that regard?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of any of those type of developments at the provincial level, but I'm very happy to take that away and do a bit more research and see what may be happening at that front. Bring that back.
Yeah, that would be great, and perhaps we can connect offline and just have a few more questions about what it looks like or what you might be able to find on this. I think it's a really, communities all over the province are, I think, just Toronto's looked at exempting up to 6 units from development charges, including parkland fees, obviously a different jurisdiction than we're at. Hamilton is looking at DC exemptions, and I think right now the cities of Kitchener and Waterloo allow 4 units. And so again, if this is the type of development that we want to start seeing, and if we're 0% of 0 projects is $0. So if we're, what can we do to perhaps spur this? And then we can obviously respond if there's a massive flood of 4-unit developments. But anyway, I just wanted to put that on the radar and see if we can kickstart a conversation, maybe even through the future DC study.
Yeah, through the chair, I was just going to say too, that's really a lot of what the DC study can address and look at sort of the current exemptions where there may be areas where we want to improve or enhance or adjust. So certainly glad to do that.
Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thanks for this information. A couple of questions that I have, it's really concerning. Obviously, the DC reserve is at 172 million, and we've got 1.6 billion in growth-related capital projects. I'm just wondering if you could break that down, and if it's not right now, possibly you could update us either at the September committee meeting or via email. But I'm curious about how much of that those projects are for to address our infrastructure gap that already, infrastructure that already exists, and how much is for new infrastructure.
Through the chair, so this is for growth-related infrastructure.
So the 1.6 is all growth-related infrastructure?
Yeah, it's for growth-related infrastructure, and it's primarily, that underlying infrastructure, so roads, water, wastewater. It's that type of stuff where we, within the previous plan, identified some significant areas that will need to be developed. There are some of those projects where it's an existing project and it's expanded for growth. So that's where there can be that work where we're combining rehabilitation of existing and adding growth. But it's essentially, and it is all growth related.
Okay, so then on top of that, we have our infrastructure deficit that we also need to be, and do you know approximately how much that is?
Oh, sorry, through the chair. We reported that last committee meeting where we gave some estimates of that off the top of my head. I don't have it on the top of my head, but that's all these aspects are the parts that we're pulling together as we're developing the 2026 budget and trying to weigh these things and prioritize. So that will all be shown and played out as we present the budget.
Okay, I mean, it's just, the sentence in the report about the need for additional growth-related debt exposes the region to DC revenue risk, which is on page 3 of your report. It's obviously really concerning. And, we know because various people may say otherwise, but we know that growth, especially when it's sprawl and it's going into, new lands, expansion, that certainly growth does not pay for growth, and that it's really adding dramatically to the capital budget and into our budgetary pressures. And I think it's something that we really, obviously, I think it's important that you've highlighted this for us, because these this type of growth-related infrastructure is putting huge pressure on our budget. And then on top of that, the impacts from Bill 17 that say that we have to go ahead with the infrastructure, but we can't collect the DCs until occupancy, and then we pay interest on, what we've borrowed to build to put these to allow this development to go ahead. I mean, it's hitting us doubly hard. Right, like we're getting hit from both sides with this, and it's quite frankly, it's not a sustainable financial model.
Through the chair, yeah, that's I think some of the things we're certainly seeing that this we're going to be challenging. We want to support growth, and it'll be challenging going forward trying to balance all these when we only have a few revenue tools at our disposal.
Right. And I guess the question is, do we support growth that is more within infill development, where we have existing services and roads and, water mains and things like that? Or do we have to look at changes to our capital plan where we're expanding into like greenfield developments? I mean, that's really the question that we have to face if we're going to really take a look at these numbers that we're looking at and the risk that we're taking on and the costs that we're taking on, even just for the interest rates, right? We've seen that they've increased by, 10% over the last decade, the interest rates that we're paying on the DC reserve. It's like we're racking up a ton of debt in order to deal with expansion projects. I see you nodding.
Yeah, through the chair. So again, previewing 2026 budget, we certainly will be talking about debt limits and debt capacity and how various things are going to be impacting that and how we need to think about how to manage that going forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Salonen.
Thank you, through you, Chair. My comments were kind of along the same lines of where Councillor McCabe was headed. I'm concerned that our current course of action is to just continue to take out debt to finance growth. So I guess I'm wondering, can council expect beyond just simply budget, because budget obviously, although there's long-term forecasting, we do it in year-to-year implements. Can council see more of a long-term forecast and financial plan for how we plan to address this issue? I appreciate you bringing forward this information now, but it just really has me thinking, what is the sustainable model forward? I know many of us around this table also sit at AMO, and we are not the only ones that face this issue, and we're advocating for a better deal with the province. But I guess I'm just curious locally if we could look at getting a long-term fiscal plan to address this new change to our realities and financing things.
Through the chair, yes, we're working on that now, and that will be highlighted in the capital budget for 2026. And through that capital budget process, we will be discussing, some of the work we've done at capital steering to try to manage and prioritize, but then also what is our debt limits and how can we manage to maintain within the debt limits over the next 10 years.
Sorry, just for me to clarify what I was asking for. I appreciate that part. I'm talking about a bigger fiscal plan as a whole organization, because although this impacts our capital plans and projects, obviously that trickles into the rest of our budget, which goes into our tax base, and then add the compounding that we have the area municipalities facing the same thing, and we have our own infrastructure challenges and issues. So I guess what I'm hoping to see is more so a whole rounded, not just looking at capital and debt financing, but looking at what are we able to do and how are we planning on financing our projects. I'm thinking of some of the big projects in the pipeline, like the expansion of the LRT. The hospital, I know their ask is going to be huge on our tax base, and that's going to compete with our priorities. The policing services building their new facility, we have huge billion-dollar budget items coming down the pipeline. So I guess I would just like to see a big picture report on how does this tie into our bigger financial plan, not only our capital plan or only managing our debt for capital.
Through the chair, yeah, we can give more details on that. That's how we're looking at it holistically as we're developing the budget. It's the operating impacts and the capital. The capital, we forecast out 10 years. We do look out further for operating, but that's clearly very important. And those projects you're mentioning are part of that that formula. We have to go through and determine, what can we do, what's affordable, where, what kind of choices do we need to make?
Councillor Shantz.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to sort of rip off something that Councillor McCabe said, and that's about the DC reserves and the size of them. And there's a narrative out there that municipalities are holding on to these millions and millions of dollars in DC reserves. And I mean, I know that's not true, but I wonder if you can comment a little bit on, just for anyone who may be listening, on DC reserves, how they're used, and why getting them at the end of a project is going to be difficult for us. You kind of alluded to it, but just an opportunity to restate.
Yeah, through the chair. So it's really, fundamentally, why do we have reserves? It's so that we can plan for to pay for significant large projects that we know are occurring in the future. So this current reserve balance we have, it's very clearly linked to some significant large infrastructure projects that we have on tap that we need to save up the funds to be able to do. When the timing is not working and we don't have that opportunity or the costs increase, then we have to find other ways to fill in the gaps. And that's what's happening with when I mentioned about how much percentage of the collections that we get go to debt payments. That's because we have to do the project and we haven't yet collected the funds for that project. So now it's kind of doubly so, because for other future projects, we're now using funds to pay off debt versus putting money away for other future projects. So it kind of creates like a snowball. So that's really underlying the reason and rationale as to why it's so important to have reserves for these larger projects.
Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair Harris. I just really have to commend the level of questions of my colleagues. I think it's great. I look at DCs as one input into our budget. And not only do we lobby other levels of government, but we also educate them. To Councillor Shantz's point, I think there are people in Queen's Park that thought we were stuffing our mattress with this money. They didn't realize that it was a working capital, it was a revolving fund, and it is part of what we use to issue debt on behalf of both the region and area municipalities. So I'd have to tell you, this is an issue, and Councillor Craig, this is a bit preemptive because I was waiting for you to enter in and say, have we talked to other levels of government? So AMO, Roma, as well as Marco, and the chairs and CAOs and the Marco members, of which there are 16, all of the two-tier municipalities and the large single-tier municipalities are members of that. And this kind of data is really important to make a compelling case to other levels of government so they understand. It isn't just the quantum with these DCs, but it is the timing. I know that point has already been made. But I think it's really important that we go forward with data-informed discussions. I don't think there's a lot of receptiveness at the provincial and federal level to talk about a new deal for municipalities. So I think we have to talk about how do we find a creative way of funding these projects, because we all agree that growth is happening, that we have to have infrastructure for it, and we absolutely are in favor of additional housing. So how do we make that happen? Because it can't just be done on the backs of the ratepayers. But to Councillor Salinen's point, both Chair Harris and Wayne have done a really good job, I think, at looking at a really holistic way to come at the budget. And we have a lot of tough decisions to make, but they are taking exactly what you're asking for, which is that sort of longitudinal impact of servicing the debt that we've already let let alone the debt we need to issue. So I'm really looking forward to the budget because I think there's been an awful lot of hard work, not just on behalf of Wayne, but all of CLT, making sure that we have the full picture when we go into the upcoming budget.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wanted to kind of echo what Councillor Solonen had to offer, as well as thread a bit of a needle with what Councillor McCabe had to say. I think there's a really broader conversation that, you know, the budget's a big time. There's a lot of information in front of council, and you know, it'll be my first and only of this term, but I just wanted to, you know, there's a lot that happens at budget, and I think there's a big conversation about those trade-offs to what Commissioner Rose's work around the asset management plan is, how much we want to allocate to that work versus expansion projects. And if it's part of the budget, that's great, but if there's any opportunity to have it, you know, to allow us to get through budget perhaps a little less weedy. I don't know if that's where Councillor Solonen was going with that, but you know, the budget's pretty dense, and this is also a big conversation. And so if there's any opportunity to have that fulsome conversation about, yeah, you know what, maybe for the next couple of years, we're deprioritizing our expansion projects and we're, you know, let's focus on some repaving and, you know, cutting the grass and really delivering a great service to residents. But that, again, that's my perspective, and I think there's a big conversation that might need to happen.
Yeah, and through the chair, if I can just say that, like, we're really focused on that as we're developing this 2026 budget process. And so, like I said, you're going to see the plan we're putting forward in terms of how we feel we should manage debt growth. And it's because of all these significant projects, and we're doing that work now on operating and capital to determine, you know, what's the priorities that we can bring forward and demonstrate to council as this is a path forward. But that will be that opportunity for you to give that input with all these items that we've been talking about highlighted.
Okay, colleagues, I'll now call for a mover and a seconder on the report, moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Wolf, with regards to item, oh, I thought it was, I'm already on 8.3. Hang on. Yeah. Sorry. So I skipped ahead, and that was for information only. I'll go back to Wayne Seffler with regards to 8.3, the debenture financing up to 30 years. So Wayne, over to you on that one. And then we'll call for an ask.
Okay, so some of you likely remember during last budget, we talked about 30-year debentures. And to give a little bit of context, we have done 30-year debentures in the past, the region has. The current policy has been 10 to 20-year terms. So what we're showing here in this report is we're recommending that we begin to look at issuing debentures of terms for up to 30 years for large-scale growth-related capital projects that have long useful lives and future revenue streams. So currently, most of the debentures we're issuing now are 10 to 20 years. But in some cases, major transit expansions, water infrastructure, and large facilities, they're assets that serve the community for well over 30 years. So using a longer amortization period would better match repayment to the asset's life, to the timing of the revenues from the growth, helping to smooth the annual debt service costs and reduce the near-term budget impacts on taxpayers and ratepayers. So the approach here that we would be using would be to selectively where it makes sense and where it is adhered to provincial regulations, we would begin bringing in 30-year terms for some of our items we're loaning, getting debenture money for. So if approved, this will provide us greater flexibility in structuring future capital plans while maintaining our financial stability and our AAA credit rating. So I'm happy to take any questions on this one.
We have a few. Councillor Salonen.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I guess I'm just wondering, especially after the conversation we just had on the information report, how exactly would it be determined what projects we'd be looking at for this? And then also, what would the plan be? Because assuming, as you mentioned, this would be for large infrastructure items like transit, obviously, even if they have a longer lifetime, we still need to be saving up to replace or improve those assets as we're going forward. So as we're paying off the debt, what is the plan to have money in the bank to then upgrade or fix these issues going forward?
Yeah, so can you repeat the first part of your question again?
Yes, I'm curious, how exactly are these being selected as items to do the 30-year? Is that if council were to pass this motion, are we giving staff the authority and delegating that authority to them to determine what counts as large-scale growth-related projects? Or would it still go through the budget process of, for this item, we would like it to be financed over 30 years and asking for council approval?
So through the chair, it would have to meet the criteria. There's certain regulations within issuing debentures that it has to meet criteria. So it's actually in there that it has to have a useful life that's longer than 30 years. So we follow that criteria. We do that now. Like, we make that determination when we issue 10 or 20 years, when we determine, the assets that we're going to go to get debt for, if it's a 10 or 20 year. So it has to meet that criteria. And so we would identify that through the debenture process, as we do now with the 10 and 20 years. We'd just be adding on this 30-year option. So it would meet the criteria I'm talking about here, being large scale. It must have a useful life, a longer term, and have that revenue generation opportunity, and it's that future benefit. It's the benefit aligns. The other part of this too, it has to. The other part of this is creditors are very interested in that as well. So when we shop that out, they want to ensure there's proper assets that are backing that as well. So there's a lot of scrutiny that happens when we develop those debentures. We go through a legal review process to ensure that it aligns and matches. So it's essentially, right now we do 10-20, we'd add this 30 option, and then when we bring that debt forward, that's when you would see, where things categorized and got to in that process.
So for clarity, who are you saying that we is? Is that we being staff, or is that we being council as the decision-making body for the region?
Through the chair, we follow the regulations in terms of what is eligible to be put into a 30-year term. The direction we have now is to only do 10 and 20 year.
Right. I'm asking who's defining the eligibility, though, because I would still say that this is subjective language in here, in what this motion is right now before council. So is it the creditor saying, this is what I'm willing to, this is what I deem to meet this criteria? Is it a regional solicitor saying this meets the criteria of being what is subjectively outlined in here? Or is it still regional council come the budget who decides? That's what I'm trying to ask. I understand what you're saying in the process, and I get that we have the 10 and 20 year. I'm saying who actually then makes the decision? Today, are you asking for us to give authority that you can issue 30 year debts and debentures based off of somebody else's criteria, or who is making that criteria decision?
Yeah, so what we're asking is that we have 30-year debt now. So it's adding this back into our repertoire, and we will follow the process as we do to determine what is a 10-year and a 20-year debt, which is according to the legislation around debentures that within the Municipal Act. And so it has to align with that. And then that's when we would bring it forward and say
it's the legislated
it's qualified.
definition.
It's qualified, within the Municipal Act.
Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you to Wayne and the team that works with him for bringing this forward after we talked about it at last budget, and just that I'm prepared to move it.
Okay, I was ahead of myself earlier and did have a mover and a seconder, so we'll just do. I believe Councillor Fox and Councillor Wolf had seconded, so if you're still good with that, we'll move forward with that, and I'll ask everyone to head over to eScribe to confirm their intentions of voting. Just Councillor Wolf, when you're ready. Good, that's carried, colleagues. 9.1, the council committee tracking list is being received for information. Moving on to other business. 10.1, Councillor James' motion. Councillor James has provided a motion which is listed in today's agenda. We will need a seconder for that motion. Councillor McCabe, thank you. I'll call on Councillor James to speak to the motion.
Thank you. I am presenting this motion on elect respect, started through Healthy Democracies in AMO and Marianne Mead Ward, Mayor of Burlington, Samira Ali, Milton Councillor, and in many conversations around the current climate with elected officials. So I think this is timely and necessary, given, in a few days we are going to appoint somebody to this table. We need to really reinforce and ensure that regardless of, our backgrounds, decisions we make, that there is a healthy democracy and respect in the work. And across this province, we are witnessing hostility, threats, vitriol directed at those who serve the public, especially at the local level. We had former Councillor Cheryl came in and spoke about her experiences. This is not just anecdotal, and it's a documented trend. And the Association of Municipalities has launched the Healthy Democracy Project in response to these challenges. So, what I will say to this, it's been a long day, but there has been an increase in harassment, intimidation in municipal councillors and mayors. And I know, we are told to have a thick skin, and absolutely, but the level of toxicity that I am seeing, that we are seeing, that is being experienced, is something that is concerning. And I will say this, it's not just amongst the public, sometimes it is amongst colleagues who sit around a table as well. The increased harassment and fewer, and the other thing too, I'll add on to this, is that we want people to run for office. We want people to put their name on a ballot, but there are realities to that I think need to be addressed. And what this resolution does is really, it's an accountability piece, I think, for us. I think reminder to the public too that we are human. And I will tell you, as I am sitting here today, I've been getting lots of harassment coming through. This is a reality. We have councillors who are within our municipalities who have restraining orders against people. We have people who are getting their tires slashed. We have instances when we are out in public with our families where people are threatening us. That is not okay. That is not the image of a healthy democracy. Yes, we can disagree. We can have differences of opinion. We can challenge each other. But there also has to be a respect. And, over the past few months, I've met with former mayor of Gatineau in Quebec, and 800 people in Quebec have left before their mandate. 800 elected officials over the past number of years. There is a trend. There is a toxic trend, and I know many people will say we signed up for it, but we don't sign up to have our lives threatened, our families at risk. And we also need to know that amongst the table that we sit at, as much as we may disagree, there is a respect that we need to show to each other. So what I am asking council to do is reaffirm that model of respect and integrity, that rejecting abuse and hate, encouraging a political culture where all people feel welcomed and safe to serve. And I will say that, stats will say Black, Indigenous, racialized women, but this also impacts men as well. I have heard many and had lots of stories and been in discussion. It is being in a political public figure role, and we see what's happening across many different countries, nearby and even amongst each other, that there is a dehumanizing of this role that I think we need to, recenter ourselves for our accountability and also for the public. Like I said, as I sit here today, I'm getting harassing messages. So there is something that has happened. There is a climate that's changed, and I'm, asking council to commit to, respect amongst each other, and then for the public to really recognize that we are people with families. We are mothers, daughters, sisters, brothers. We are the level of toxicity and the way that people speak to us. We should always have respect at the bottom of that. So I'll leave it there. Councillor McCabe, if you want to speak to this, and if there's any questions around this.
Just to say thank you, Councillor James, for bringing this forward and continuing to raise issues like this that are, that some people experience, other people don't, but the people who do experience, we need to call it out and we need to support them and we need to continue, because we do need to continue to encourage good people wherever they're from to run for office. So thanks very much for putting it forward.
Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, through you, Chair, and thank you again, Colleen, for doing this. And we have to be so very, very careful. We have to respect one another. But even the person that's attacking us, if we attack back, we solved nothing. We have to take it to a higher level and say, okay, let's talk. Could you please lower your voice? Let's deal with it, but we can't retaliate back because that allows them to do it because we've gotten into the debate. We've got to teach respect. Our society is going a little bit crazy right now, and the south of the border is a prime example, and it's infiltrating here. So we as politicians, we get a lot of crap. And I have to say, I got an email from a gentleman, and he sent my CAO and another gentleman on the list and wrote the email. And it was not a bad email. And then he took the gentleman off, and then he really laid into me. And it was swearing and cursing. I'm going, he took the men off. What a coward. Anyways, I didn't say that to him. But we have to try to diffuse it. This is hard times. It's not going to get easier. People are losing their homes. People are losing their jobs, and they're in a tough situation, and they're angry, and we're easy targets. But if we can try and reach their respect level and give them the ability to see that they're still human, they still matter, and so do we. Thank you for this, Colleen.
Councillor James, to wrap it up.
Thank you, through you, Chair Harris. Just in addition to the end of the motion, the resolution, I want to make sure this is also forwarded to area municipalities as well. I did not, it's an oversight on that. So if there's consensus with that to include.
Okay, colleagues, I don't see any other questions, so we'll go to eScribe to vote on this motion. Yep, just do a little update and it'll be ready to go. Okay, colleagues, that is carried. We have another, no, just let me see. Yes, we have another motion by Councillor James, item 10.2. Provided a motion which is listed on today's agenda. We will need a seconder for that motion. Oh, Councillor Foxton. I'll call on Councillor James to speak to that motion now, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair Harris. I will keep this brief, but I recognize that with our automated speed enforcement program and many others across the province, there is what I would say, and I think the province has identified this, is, not just potentially a review, but a need to standardize this program in a way that does not make this confusing for the public. We heard from delegations today some things around signage. I know many of us have received messages about this program and confusion and what I see is potentially a need for greater transparency and something to be standardized across the program. So this is more or less an advocacy piece or motion to the province to, we are partners in working with those area municipalities that choose to work with us. It is an ask to ensure that there is some continuity, make things less confusing. You get a ticket that is in Waterloo region, you leave and you go to another municipality, there could be, different parameters. And I think one of the things that, like I said, makes this confusing is that there is no standardization. The province has passed legislation, Bill 34. I do believe in speaking with our staff in this program that there will be some review of some sort coming forward. And this is just advocacy to the province to say, yes, if you could standardize part of this program to make it more effective and beneficial for everybody, there would be benefit to that. So happy for the discussion around this. It is, it's meant to be friendly as opposed to adversarial with this motion.
Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and though I normally agree with Councillor James on this topic, we do disagree. I am against the speed cameras, and I think asking for a standard across the province may be not what we want right now. I think staff have tried to make our program as reasonable as they can, and we know other municipalities haven't. So if the standard becomes even stricter than ours, we wouldn't want that. I also think that the province may just get rid of it altogether because there is growing opposition to the program. And we saw this originally with speed cameras on 401 when they started to lower the speed at which they were giving people tickets. It became an election issue and the cameras were removed. So I believe right now to encourage more speed cameras or even throughout the province isn't a place that I want to go. So I will be voting against the motion.
Okay, colleagues, I don't have any other speakers to this item, so we'll go right over to vote on it. So head over to eScribe and we'll vote. Okay, colleagues, that is carried. The next meeting is scheduled for September the 9th, 2025. We'll now start a vote to adjourn the meeting, moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Craig. Please use your yes or no button to vote. Okay, that's carried. We'll take a few-minute break and we'll consume our next committee meeting shortly.